Okay, so Portrait Studio is still on sale, and it will continue to be on sale. It's supposed to end tomorrow. But I need to run a really, really quick, just question, who wants the sale to go on for another week? I know some people requested that it go on until the 31st because they don't get paid till the end or money hasn't transferred. I'm not sure what. But thank you to everyone who's taken advantage of the sale. I'm really happy that it's given you guys an opportunity to own Portrait Studio. Please remember, and I made a post about this on Facebook, please remember that Portrait Studio is not for Mac. And I have like 3 different ways of saying that on the store alone and Selfie and in the Square store. And as well, posts all over the place about me not releasing Mac. People asking me about when will Mac come out. So if people are asking me when is Mac coming out, why are you buying it for thinking that it's already available? I'm not sure how you added that up. Please stop doing that because it's not how this works. This is digital merchandise refunds are a lot more complicated because I'm not ensured that the person will delete their copy. It's just a way to stay secure and stay safe for me and safe for everyone else. So please remember, Portrait Studio has not been available for Mac at all. Some people are using Wine, which is a program that you can run in Mac that can run Windows software. It's called Wine, like the drink. But other than that, there's no other way to run it. Not a lot of people's PCs, not PCs, God forbid. A lot of people's Macs can only run, can't really run Wine properly, let alone Wine running something else for them. But it's doable if you're interested in that route. Look into whether or not your Mac has the right requirements to run Wine properly. But if you're running on a really, really old one that's outdated, you're probably not going to succeed in doing that. Just the fact that people are buying it and then not looking at the system requirements. Some people say that the system requirements for integrated graphics cards, we have a minimum graphics card that you need to run Portrait Studio at the lowest. Some people are running it anyway, even though they have less than the minimum requirement, but our minimum requirement is rounded as low as possible. So just remember to read about the requirements. So you go to the store, you click on the Portrait Studio option right here, and you just read. There's this user guide, there's the minimum system requirements, there's the fact and the disclaimer that it is not available for Mac. And we don't even recommend Wine at all here on this page. We just don't want to associate with that at all. But if you can use Wine if you want to. And that's it. There's all of this is available for you here. This is the final price. After the sale, the price will go up to $69.99. This was not a joke. This is just how we ended up, the number that we ended up with. This is not a joke at all, okay? So I know what I was talking about earlier about those people who were trolling us. But yes, you can run it on Windows 7, 8, or 10, but Windows 10 is recommended at 64-bit systems. So that's how it was exported on a Windows 10, and that's what we should recommend receiving it with. But it can still work. If it doesn't work for some reason, our team will tirelessly work to make sure that you guys can run it. If for some reason it doesn't run even after extensive troubleshooting, only then are you a candidate for refund. Because at that point we can make sure that this program is deleted and make absolute sure that there's no way to run it for you, and especially if you're not getting a new computer anytime soon. We don't want to be unfair, but we also want to stay fair to ourselves, and we're a small enough group that we can offer this kind of troubleshooting for you. Abu does everything he can to make sure it runs for you. He's the mastermind behind running it, and he knows what it needs and what it doesn't need. He groomed it. So that's pretty much it for those interested in Patreon. Patreon is still up as an option to support the community. A lot of people are asking how. I bought all your brushes. I want to support you continuously. Patreon is always an option. The apprentice tier is the tier that is an equivalent of private tutoring. Our apprentice meetup, which is a 2-hour private live stream, is on the 27th of this month. Though you might have missed the billing cycle for March, the billing cycle for April is coming up. So for those who are interested in getting this month's and the last 3 months the sessions that we hold together, the lessons, the 2-hour reviews, you can still have access to those if you sign up now. You don't have access to previous rewards, of course, but you can still catch up with the homework. The apprentice tier develops and helps you develop, with the homework assigned, a portfolio, a solid portfolio. Right now we're studying landscapes and thumbnails. The first month we studied character design and character design layouts of appealing characters. And then the second month we studied really, really high render for portraits and blocking. So all of the homework that you're assigned, you can still catch up if you sign up now, but all the homework that we assign is portfolio ready homework. So if you're interested in getting any of that and having some kind of way to stay, what's the word? Someone's always just checking to make sure you've done your work right and make sure that you have a community that you reference your work against. That's pretty much what we're offering here, as well as all the rewards for the lower tiers. And then there is the challenge. I told you guys I'll have quite a bit of a break between this community challenge and the next one, but I will be assigning and announcing a poll for the challenge probably after this sale. And then the Portrait Studio update will come out probably on the 6th. Sometime around that time. It's a really, really long process for us. It's a big hustle, but I will try my best to keep that promise. But I am promising that I will try to keep the promise. I'm not promising it will happen. I'm promising I will try. If not, and I won't allow myself an if not, but if not, there is an update coming up with a really, really great hand model, and we'll just figure that out when we get to it. I promise you we'll take care of that. And that's about it. Let's get started in the critique. I don't think I have any other announcements unless there's questions that you guys have, which I can announce for around the end of the class. So if you do have questions, make sure you do at Istebrak so that we can address those questions. Okay. So this piece is a villain design from one of the villain challenges. I keep all the challenges up on the istebrak.com site, by the way. And to find them, all you have to do is go to the community tab and scroll down. You can find the resource packs for all the previous challenges. So this one is for the villain challenge, if I'm correct, if I got that correctly. So one thing that kind of gets to me is the fact that she's standing perfectly still. I remember specifically that you can make the gesture of the character, because this is an illustration. It's not just a standing character design. It's not some sort of lead character design and against a gray background just for in-game motion and stuff like that, or animation. It's not just about that in an illustration. In an illustration, you get to design their world and add to their character. So when I'm looking at this perfectly standing character, I don't see a snake or a squid or whatever she is. I just see a perfectly standing character. Why not, in here, let me try to run Portrait Studio. Why not try to explore what she can do with her body? So I'm going to try to do it on my own before getting a reference for it. Let me just get Portrait Studio running. I believe I do have it on run in background, so it doesn't lag my liquify. Image size. Okay, filter, liquify. Alright, so let's see, is it lagging yet? Alright, no? Okay, cool. So, what I would want it to have seen is some sort of gesture that is in the same motion as the squid. And the first thing that pops to my mind is some sort of belly dance. So she's kind of standing in this really, really twisty way where her lower body is being forced forward. One shoulder is behind the other. And I'll show you in a second what I'm doing. I can't pull it all off with a liquify, but I'll show you what I'm doing in a second with the figures on Portrait Studio. But I'm going to keep one shoulder a little bit higher, one shoulder lower, so she's kind of snaking around. I also need to do something with the lighting that makes it feel like she's snaking around. So what does a snake do when it crawls out of a cave? It slowly emerges from the light, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it, here, let me get the chat up. I'm trying to make it so that it looks like she's slowly emerging from the dark, which is going to be a beautiful addition here to the presentation of the character. Again, illustrations are an opportunity to use all kinds of nearby elements to enhance the character. Write that back to me. Sorry if that's very long, but you can use the environment elements to enhance a character, basically. Use environment elements to enhance a character. Also, you did explore a little bit of expression with her eyebrows, but a little bit more asymmetry in a symmetrical way is kind of, I know that's weird to say, but she still is proportionate, but her expressions are a little bit intense and more of like an arched hello, with her eyebrow. And then a squint in the eyes. See that? So much more conniving, so much more evil, a more wide smile in the nose. And you're using the stitches on her mouth to do the smiling. Use her mouth to smile. Smile with her mouth and the stitches will kind of complete the rest. Maybe lengthen her teeth to be freakishly long. Something like that. So she is beautiful, but she is ugly in the sense that she kills people. So before, after. Look at that. And it's only a couple of changes. Now, if you are having difficulty figuring out how to pose and what scene and how to take the picture, you can always just pose it here. So we create that pose exactly. And so what I usually try to figure out first is how is she dealing with the camera? What is she doing first? What's the motion first? And it's usually, so let me try to recreate yours actually. It usually starts with the legs. So she has like more of a modest, flirtatious, kind of like her legs, her knees together, which is very flirtatious, very feminine to keep your knees together. But you know what I mean as a character design artist, more modest pose. But it's not athletic. It's more of a deception or a false modesty to kind of almost like a geisha way of standing with the ankles kind of together and the knees kind of together. So I'm moving that forward and then I'm pressing this down, pressing the toes up, and this is what I start with first, the largest motion first. Then I want to make her look like she is posing is kind of backward because you want the curve first, but that's not where the curve starts. It starts kind of that way, so you want to do a little bit of an offness in the body just to make the body feel like it's curving in that other direction. So trying it, constantly rotating the camera is a great way to do it. So where do I want her bending her body? That way. So that means that I'm straightening this back up forward, and one shoulder should be higher than the other. So this is very tricky. Everything is kind of backwards right now, but it'll make sense in a second once I kind of realign the feet. You got to be able to explore every possible way a body can move, because that's how a body moves comfortably when nothing is obstructed. And then moving the torso back forward, and then adjusting the neck. Oh, okay. So now that I did this, oh, wonderful. I discovered a whole new way to kind of tilt the body. Now that one shoulder is up, guess what I can do with the head? Oh, hello, traveler. Ooh la la, look at that whole field of motion I didn't have in my mind. I didn't have faculty for. Me as your teacher, I didn't think to tilt her head, but look at how much more it added to her pose. Another thing you might want to do is the thing that is causing the motion the most. So where's the curve basically? Where's her curve located? That's where you enlarge. That's what you kind of exaggerate. So I don't really worry so much about posing the arms, because the arms they don't really affect the torso. That's why I don't worry so much. But the hips, the legs, those are the main cause of concern when posing. Also, what just happened in front of you right before your eyes? You saw that I had no idea I could tilt the head till I could tilt it. Okay, so tilting the head a little bit. I still feel like I'm not getting that same attitude problem that I really want. So that's enlarging. This one is to move. So I want to move this over here. And I want to just exaggerate as much as possible. And the body's kind of tilted in the wrong direction. That's fine. You can save states. You can do all kinds of stuff. So I'm not so worried about not getting it right the first time. But as long as I'm kind of just exaggerating as much as I can and getting the pose that I need. And then again, the ankles together, the knees together to kind of create that false modesty. But really, she's a she-beast and she'll eat you alive and pick her teeth with your bones. But so I'm exaggerating that. I'd cut this part off. I'd lower the shoulders. One shoulder needs to go up. One shoulder needs to be dragged down. And then I would just drag the head up to give me more neck space. And then there are other ways to kind of, look at that silhouette. Isn't that wonderful? I'd love to design around the silhouette alone. Like the moment she wakes up and starts to dress herself in her sinewy clothing, that's kind of what I feel like she's doing right now. She just woke up and she's looking at herself in the mirror. So she's very vain and very ugly and very stupid. And so she, she puts her mirror right there. I imagine the mirror right there. I imagine her very proud with kind of like a high chin, kind of really, really staring at herself. I would set up the lighting in such a way where she looks like that. And I have my reference ready. And so I really, really think that the front-facing camera angle is just boring. And it led you to thinking that all you need is that. She looks like a nice girl going to a Halloween party. This girl is really into it. So do your characters look like they're wearing a costume, or are they actually dressing in the personality that would make them? It's the gesture. Would she still be a she-beast if she was wearing no clothes? Your design is weak as heck, because you're not thinking about her as a personality. You're thinking about her as a costume. And that's why I didn't really, get influenced so much by her. I don't feel like I'm very scared of her. I could care less. What is she doing? Go to a Halloween party, probably take some selfies and put them on Instagram. But here is when we start to really feel like this is an actor. This is becoming someone. It's becoming something. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to just darken everything. I'm going to duplicate the layer, darken everything, because I want her to feel like she's emerging. Okay, I'm going to darken from the floor down. And I'm going to imagine the light. I mean, ideally, I would have loved to see this, and the camera right there, and she's like, yes, and she's getting ready, and it's like a scene before she goes and seduces an old man, or I don't know, God knows what. Old men, I don't know, they're always so susceptible to seduction in movies. It's always the old man that gets seduced. I don't know. So what I would want to do is kind of like set up a secondary light. I would put a secondary light somewhere here. I don't want to waste too much time, but I want to put a secondary light here. Kind of reveal her most appealing attributes, probably her breasts, her neck length, her legs. That's what she would draw men in with. And then her arms and her sash or whatever, her kimono, I don't know what it is where she hides her weapons, how she suffocates people. I think you did a bit of a cop-out with the little dudes here. I think you should, even though they're really well painted, I think you should have tried hands, definitely. This is coming from me. Let me turn off the signal thingies. Okay. So now that I've done that, I'm going to keep thinking about her emerging from the light. I can only do so much. You'd have to repaint the painting completely. A lot of people take offense to this when this comes up. A lot of people don't like to be told you have to start over. Because to them, they're in starvation mode for success. Some artists are in starvation mode. They feel like they barely made this painting work, and now they have to start over, and they're in like this drought of being able to create something. But it's really not. To restart something and recreate it and have an opportunity to try again is a wonderful thing that digital art allows us to do. It's not a traditional painting. You don't actually maybe have to restart it completely. You can go back to it and correct a lot of this stuff. So brush is low, radially growing the face out of the darkness, choosing a spot where the spotlight will sit. That alone has made so much of an effect to her kind of lighting was really set up to amplify her mystery and her general horridness. And then I'm just going to reveal some of this, but still there are a lot of things I would have loved to see. In the villain challenge, something that I cover a lot of in the face, can anyone name some of the features that were the most important when we did the villain challenge? I hope you guys like the upcoming challenge. I do want to post a poll for it, but I thought of it on the way to Canada. I'm not sure why you have shadows outlining the shoulders, but this is a sign of weakness. Too much revealed. Way too much revealed. Even if she's pale, she's fine. It's pale. Don't worry. She does seem pale right now. So I'm just highlighting some areas here. The head is kind of big. You know, it doesn't bother me because she has weird squiddish arms. I don't know. It's a lot of this stuff is like kind of okay with me right now. I don't see it as big because half the body is in darkness anyway. So I don't see it as like an affront to the anatomy. I feel like it's an addition to her weirdness, to her kind of like general offness. So I'm just raising the opacity back up. So when I assign students in private tutoring to design something like this, a full-on illustration of a character, eventually we go into portfolio building, I don't let them just go in and design whatever the hell they want. They have to send me mood boards and blueprints and gesture experimentation. I get them in the habit of always checking, making sure that they're choosing the best camera angle ever. The best camera angle for this situation, and we try it in different thumbnails, and then we choose one final one. When you skip this level, which doesn't take skill to do, it doesn't take skill to plan. It's not a gift to plan. It's not a talent. You're not born with the ability to plan. Anyone can plan. Anyone can sit there and collect multiple options after which they can pursue, right? It's not something that is you don't have to be a demigod to plan. So that's the habit you need to start building, because if you planned, you would have taken care of a lot of these choices way early on, and things would have looked a lot better. And the character would have been more accessible. Skull-like looking, exactly, Ahmed. So we want something that looks like a skull. So what I did here is I added even more to her morbidity, I guess, and I'm just adding shadow to the lower part of this area. The fact that we showed more teeth and lengthened them, she's starting to look a little bit like one of those Inuyasha monsters. Those demons. Man, those things scared the crap out of me. Getting rid of the value sharing on the side of the nose. You're not at a point where you can't do a portrait because you haven't done a 14-day challenge. I feel like you have, maybe. But you're also not at a point where you're home free when it comes to portraits. Never assume you're home free when it comes to portraits. In a portrait, there's so much going on. There's always something extra to do. There's always some extra way you can push the portrait. So don't say, okay, well, you know, I'm good with portraits now. I'm going to go into illustration and hopefully I'll get a portrait study in somewhere. So I'm just illuminating her eyes as best as I can to kind of push the magic in them, kind of like a Sin City. You know the movie A Dame to Kill For? You know the moment that Eva Green is like on the bed and her fake titties are out, and I said titty side. I don't think I would today. Her eyes, her face is in complete darkness, but only the white of her eyes are glowing. It's something that Frank Miller did a lot. That's kind of what I want to do right now. It's just this weird, icky, kind of like excessive illumination on the eyes that's just really, really icky. But it looks so good when everything else is dark. Jump scare. I'm so sorry if I scared you. That's kind of what I'm adding in now. Also, what are we appreciating from this silhouette if the background looks like a big Mickey Mouse silhouette? What is that? I'm just going to really quickly just create some boundaries and depth here. Just simple middle ground, foreground, background. Nothing extensive. No crazy physics or anything like that. Just simple cutout, value changes, temperature changes, anything to create a separation between her environment, which is necessary for an illustration, and her. That way we get more of the tilt in her head. See that? Just this lasso is revealing to you some more of the appeal. Okay. So I'm going to cut this out. Put that back in. Merge that shit. Oopsie. Okay. Gotcha. I gotcha. I know what to do. Delete. No? Oh, really? Okay, there we go. Much better. Scroll down. Okay. Did I just mess this up? Probably yes. Alright, never mind. Just trying to figure out my layers over here. So I'm going to choose a background layer, probably this. Make it the background value and then lower the opacity of this right here so that we have more of a separation between her and her background. Something very, very slight. I still want her to feel like she's emerging, but you've got, I don't know what it is. Is it a mountain range? What is it? Is it just some sort of stylistic backdrop? Her things seem to be traveling into the distance. The reason why I kept the background layer is so I can create a transition between the values of anything immediate and the tentacles as they recede into the background values. See that? That fake atmospheric fade? I don't know what these are. Again, it doesn't really read as an environment. It reads more as like an abstract representation of her. Also, one just really, really big correction is the crop is way off. I might crop at the end so that before and after is a bit more accurate. But okay, so now we get more of a representation of her gesture, and then finally it's this stuff on the inside that makes us lose her gesture again. So again, I might just grab the background value and just throw that in there. Just maybe something to separate her body from her arms, or maybe I'll go to the other way, just exaggerating her curves. So I will, complete the temptress body type. There's only a set number of body types. We've talked about this before. There's the temptress, the Aphrodite type character. There is the bulky tank. There's the skinny, scrawny scientist. You don't have many to work from. You can count them with your hands. You don't have many to work from. So never assume you can, give her a skinny, scrawny body. Trust me, she's got thick thighs, because that's the point. That's how she catches her prey. I'm going to do one more little, actually I'll go into that. I think I lost the layer, didn't I? Did I lose the layer? Maybe I didn't. Maybe I did. I'll do one more little, oh no, I didn't. Wow, she was very pale before. One more little recession here of shadows, darkness, and we can throw in a little bit of fog. It might create more of like a den feel, like the feeling of a den, or some sort of, like dark, twisty, because she wouldn't live in a sunny glen, would she? She would live in something a little bit more miasma-like. Again, really, really strong Inuyasha vibes coming out of this. Alright, so I'm just going to make that fog gray. The environment is just fine. Oops, slider. Make that fog gray. See how nice that is? And then I'm going to erase with the same brush. And that's pretty much how you do fog. You erase with the brush you want the fog silhouette to be. I'm just using a couple of cloud brushes. Nothing serious. I'm just going to get a lighter gray. And just have a bit more of a defined kind of like atmosphere. Again, remember, this is an illustration. You're not just here dilly-dallying and designing a costume. This isn't fashion class. Is that even real? Is a fashion class even a thing? And then to frame the painting, I'm going to make it seem like she's emerging out of the shadow. But this is all dust and, what is it? Glitter and mirrors. What's the saying? Dust and mirrors. What is it? It's not dust and mirrors. It's smoke and mirrors. It's not smoke and mirrors. This is all just, I mean, it is what I'm doing is smoke and mirrors. What you need to do is take a better photo. Take a more Frank Frazetta fucking angle with the shadows. Throw them off. Be a little bit asymmetrical. Make them long and distorted. Fucking son of a... directional light. Strength. Horizontal. Vertical. What the oh boy, I hate you. Okay, there we go. Something like that. So you still see some breasts, you still see the hands. I would push her leg out even more because then she'll catch some light with her leg, and then I'll bring in the knee a little bit closer. And then kind of just move the whole thing back. Like she's kind of just doing her little snake dancing. And she's kind of like doing something like that. Something a little bit more like that. Like she's kind of flirting in front of the mirror, practicing how she's going to like kill the man. And then I would, here, let me turn on max graphics. There we go. And then I would just take a better photo. Which one looks more daunting? Oh, this is crappy. No, not this. A low camera, and then the mirror would be right there, and then I would just make her head tilt one more time to kind of give us that menacing kind of like, oh, hello, kind of thing. Okay, so that's what I would do. This is all very, very topical stuff that I did. We go back to this, and it's nothing but boring. Because I can't do I can't redraw the whole painting, but I can only do this. And then I'm going to really quickly crop. And so this is why we planned, because now you're stuck with just this boring crop and this kind of boring setup. I would love to see you explore this character. She looks very menacing and very evil. And there's just so much going on that I would love to see you do a little bit more with the camera angle. Try again. This is why we even have these illustration attempts, to see what we don't yet know. So yes, we don't try to do masterpieces until we have a good set of studies behind us. I mean, why waste time? We want to get better sooner. But at the same time, when we're doing masterpieces, we can have the, you can have the courage to move back, to regress back into study mode. Going back into study mode is not a shameful thing to do. I do it all the time. Go back into study mode if you feel like you are lacking. Yeah, these shoulders, I'm not sure what you were doing here. But just over here, these are flat values. We'll try to explore some references of like a good set of shoulders and try to add in some light receding, and everything should work very, very nicely. But I love seeing old challenges attempted. Explore the villain challenge. It's so much fun, isn't it? Like this is a lot of fun. Alright, so a bit more on the cheekbones. I'm going to try to push that skeletal feel on the sides. Kind of reminds me of the Evil Sisters from Kubo. Yeah, just really strong vibes here. And let's see if it does work. It's fun. It's definitely fun. It's brought in a whole different set of Ooh, the red is really nice, but so I can be here forever just kind of exploring. This is very fun. I like the blue green because it's a complement to all the red. But you kind of drown out the eyes when you're like that, so I would find something in between. Just a little bit of Frank Miller, nothing too extensive. So any questions for this painting? I'm just going to touch up a little bit more texture stuff for the shirt. Bring in a bit more of the root of the light just around here. Some of the thigh reflectivity here. Some of the forehead kind of like a porcelain color. Something scary that you could do is make her skin completely grayscale. Some reflective values here on the squid parts. Remember, these are just really, really topical, cheap, smoke and mirrors type changes. They don't redo the painting for you. I'm being very honest with you about my method right now. Could we mix the body types? Not really. Don't start there. No, you're too young to ask that question. It's a bit more of like a freakish Full Metal Alchemist type of experiment gone wrong. Like alchemist spell gone wrong is what will happen if you try to mix body type. Like, what are you going to mix? We already have a designated heavyweight version of a female. We have a designated heavyweight version of a male. We have a designated scrawny male, female, that are all proportionate to each other. Don't try to put like really, really super strong legs that are tanky, that are very feminine on a really skinny upper body. It doesn't work like that. The body doesn't do these kinds of things unless forced. Another question, in character design, should we prioritize the portrait more than the rest of the body? It depends on the illustration. In character design, you distribute detail evenly. In illustration, it depends on, because right now in this version, the face isn't visible, but the breasts are, and that's why I said that the breasts and the thighs are now the main focus, because there's an outline here. There's a light outline right around here, and the arms, and then the mirror eventually of her looking at herself and getting dressed for a day of male tentacle rape. I don't know. But she is not, it's not about her face anymore, because her face is forcefully introduced with a skull-like shadow lighting. So it's not a point to do with her face. It's her body that tempts men in, and they follow her into the darkness wherein they will develop things. Okay, so before, after, again, smoke and mirrors, but don't think that this is all you need for this illustration. I really recommend a recreation. Maybe long stretching shadows that are skeleton-like across her face. Maybe go that far. But again, at the end of the day, she's still just facing forward at the camera. A very boring setup. Okay, so over here, a completely different type of illustration, but an illustration nonetheless. So we still start with the main light source. What's the main light source? Well, it looks like sunset, and it's very, very, you know, when I call you guys noobs, I call you guys noobs very, very amorously. It's kind of like the way you call a girl shorty, you know? Listen, noobs, you don't fucking use this much white in a setup that is a sunset. There's nothing in the world that will brighten this much up, unless it's a nuclear blast that happened in outer space. There's nothing that's going to brighten the sky this much if the sun is telling me right now that, hey dudes, I'm kind of nearing the horizon and the day is kind of done. There's full-on blacks in the valley side. So stop it. Stop with this. What is this? Okay? Stop it, noobs. Stop it. All right? What the hell is this? What is this? What is this? Because what it's done is revealed only one thing. You are not prepared to draw a full-on illustration of a, you know, what is it? What is it? Is it the sun? If it's the sun, then why isn't everything blue if the sun is that high? And if the sun is that high, it wouldn't be this bright because there's a cloud in front of it. If the cloud's in front of it, then we have long cast shadows from the cloud going on to the ground. And if the stuff is in the ground, why the hell isn't there any reflection on the water nearby of the sky environment? Everything looks like it's in the in the sunset. What the hell was that? Huh? Noob squad, exactly. You guys are... Oh, it was Mufasa. Oh, my bad. Okay. It was Mufasa. So what I'm going to do is, it's not ideal to choose a sunset. The girl is completely melted in with the ground value, which isn't right. This deer must be a behemoth of a deer. It must be like 500 times the size of a deer if only a couple paces away. This thing must be massive, the size of the mountain. Look, it's the size of the mountain. It should be a speck, comparing that how small this thing is compared to this mountain. This one should be a speck, but look, it's a blimp the size of a mountain. The deer is so large that it is almost the same size as this. If it was close up, the deer would probably just sit on the helm like half the sail size. This is all relative scale, so you're not thinking about scale in a greater picture. So what would happen is, you don't really need to revert into form studies. I'm not going to say that. I'm also not going to say that you don't need to do a form study environment. At least a form study version of this exact layout wherein you actually assess scale compared to each other, and then determine the time of day and the color code for that time of day. Find long cast shadows. Take a better picture. You guys aren't good cameramen. You guys are not good cameramen. Everyone has a nice camera on their phone nowadays. Try to explore framing. Try to just start there, because you guys aren't taking the best photos right now in your illustrations. I would try to set it up so that this character has some kind of light behind her. So maybe the sunset might be behind her so that we get the full silhouette. That way we have some real cast shadows moving this way, correct the size and the scale of all these extra pieces, and then figure out how to marry earth and water a little bit, and then find a better reflection band across the water, and that's really where I would start. It's too much stuff for me to do. It needs a whole critique hour just for itself. She's also extremely big. I would make her a little bit smaller. This is a close-up shot of her, but we're still seeing all this ground beneath her. The cliff must be way beneath her if we're seeing all this ground. Also, the ground doesn't feel like ground. It feels like clip art. It feels like a stage, and these are the cutouts in the stage. It doesn't feel like a real room. It doesn't feel like an actual atmosphere and a just look, just doing this. I'm just going to put it on normal. Just doing this will make a little bit more sense for this environment. Just that alone. Throwing this guy off into the distance and shrinking him. Just like that will make a little bit more sense. Shrinking the deer a little bit, bringing in some water reflection. Shrinking the deer a lot of it. Bringing in some water reflected on the ground. Just like that. And the color, I don't know what you're using, daytime value and a sunset value. That doesn't work like that. This would only work if a black hole was on its way into our sky and for some reason the air density changed halfway through, or the sun was cut in half and two pieces when the sun was high at one point and low at one point, and the sun was exploding, and in a couple seconds we'd all sizzle. It doesn't make any sense. This doesn't happen. Sometimes we have a blue sunset that has streaks of orange and all these beautiful sunset colors, but why aren't you using a reference for that? You're pretty much working off memory, and memory alone isn't going to pull this off for you, because now I don't know what color to apply to the water. The water only takes the values of objects nearby it. It doesn't do anything on its own. It needs an environment to tell the water what to do. I'm going to try to cast the shadows of this entire mountain structure on the water. Cast the shadow of the thickness of this land space on the water. And then I need to set up a good wash. What's the color of the sky? I'm going to go for white. I'm going to go for the blue, the white inspired earlier. And that should be the color you start with. Yes, it's ugly. But it's time to deal with it. It's time to deal with what it is required for you to correct all this. Anything the sun touches, I'll illuminate back against that blue. But there's just so much orange. How is green orange? I mean, how is orange green? This is because you didn't know what time of day it is. You gave us orange grass. The before is orange grass, but you had pure blues. It honestly, never mind. It just makes so much sense for me to just make everything orange. I can just darken everything. And if the sunset is behind her, then we can just... But I can't apply all the list of changes I just discovered because it's not going to work in that clean and order. It's not going to behave like that. You need to actually assess the background alone, paint the skies by themselves, then apply the light environment on all junctions. Apply the light environment on the way we see the grass, the way we see that. See how I don't know what to do with the grass unless I decide on a time of day for all of this. And so now that the sky is a little bit more orange, I can get that color and throw it on the water. You had more orange happening than anything. And you can have a warm green. A warm green is just a green that's closer to yellow. Green has blue in it, so it doesn't do very well in the darkness. It just turns blue. But you can have some green, especially near the lights, areas that have the light. And you see how dark she is? She shouldn't be that dark because this mountain isn't right beside her. I'm going to just assume she's a witch. I'm going to give her like a broom-like shape to her broom. Okay. So I'm going to just grab this color, go on lighten. She needs to be a little bit, see that? As soon as we reveal her. And now that it's not a daylight anymore, this whole cast shadow system is wrong, but it's just something. It's something for us to do. And then I'm going to just darken the water the further it gets from that reflection nearby. And things are starting to make a little bit of sense. A little. Not a lot of sense, but a little bit. And it's just a lot of color correction and a lot of value correction. It would be remiss for me not to tell you to go and do some form studies, but not just single standing form studies. You clearly have an affinity to, you know, painting a full illustration, so I want to inspire that, but at the same time, I don't want to encourage all this mistake making. So I would suggest you do a landscape version of this wherein you discover scale and proper, or like a disappearance of detail into the distance, depth rules. You're just exploring all of that. So it's more of an advanced form study that I invite you to try. And then half the sky will be in a state of darkness because, well, the sun is weak, so half the sky should be a little bit darker. So you're kind of going in the right direction down here. But still, I wouldn't really take the best photos aren't taken in dim light. I mean, yeah, you can argue against that if there's enough light to reveal the detail. But we're talking about a full-on landscape. Why would you want to take a picture of a mountain at nighttime? You're not going to get much. You're going to get a weird, awkward distortion in the moon, and that's about it. So it's like a balance between bad form language, bad depth, and not enough references in this painting. And I don't really know where to start at this point, even though I've already started. Just throwing off this object in some atmospheric fade and creating some depth so the contrast in this rock is nowhere near the contrast in the boat because that does not have a, it has a distance between the two. They're not beside each other. I'm just making sense of everything, just unifying the landscape. It's not a nonsensical color use anymore. It's not paint by numbers, everything goes, you're a beautiful snowflake anymore. You're trying to design a world. It's not about doing whatever you want and whatever you feel like it, because trust me, you're not there isn't enough in your knowledge right now that will provide you with enough that you'll need to, you know, render this entire system, this entire like massive force of nature, this huge cloud system, the rocks. That's a lot of stuff that your, you know, color choice is not going to be enough to handle. I get lost in the lasso each time. I'm trying to bring down some of this brightness. You know what? Fuck it, I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. If it's a sunset and the sun is behind her, which really would make sense because all the clouds are pointing that way, then she is in a silhouette. And if she's in a silhouette, then she's going to have a bit more light in front of behind her. And I'm just trying to show you, see how far it should go down. So look up a good reference. Honestly, this looks like a man-made brook type thing. It doesn't feel like a river of any kind. Choose the time of day. That'll help you decide what kind of colors you have. That's the fundamental that we link back to this. Thank you, Sunny. Yeah, try to focus on the lesson questions or towards the end. Why do we students hate being told to do form studies so much? It's like a kinder way for Istebrak to tell us you failed at the class, noob. A form study is a really not fun way to explore form only. Form studies are boring. I find them boring, but in the fact that I assigned them and I did them myself, who you know me as today is in thanks to form studies. They removed the pressure of creativity and replaced it with nothing but knowledge. And later when I wanted to be creative, I had the form there to tell me what to do. Form studies give you an appreciation for light, which is the first and only question a student asks when they start to paint. Where is the light source? So, yeah. For this painting, it's very boring because, again, and if you're thinking of it as a photographer, why would you let the studio get so dark? You're losing a lot of what the model is doing. Look, the lasso can't differentiate between her values and the background values. You have only one light source, not necessarily placed in the most flattering direction. I mean, if this was like some sort of splash art or poster, it wouldn't be a very interesting poster. There's no silhouette. There's only the moon, which is really pretty, but that's about it. The moon is doing more for the image, but it has zero detail in it. Just the silhouette shape of the moon is the most intriguing part. This is a pretty cool part right here, her like waistcoat thingy-majiggy. Her hair is really nice, so you're not working with solid values anymore. You're working now with grays, so it's throwing it off a little bit. Then you go into grays again around her thighs. What I would want, and I really would love to have this even just right now somehow, is the PSD, so I can raise the value back up in the background. So if you can do that at home, you can just go into your PSD and raise this value back up. You can get her silhouette back. It doesn't have to go all the way up to white, but I don't recommend it at the value it's in now. I recommend it at something like here. That way you have a silhouette from which, you know, she's coming. Also, zoom out. Zoom out. This is all way too close up. Zoom out a little bit. I'm at 1%. I don't think this is even humane. This is some torture right here. I don't know. Maybe we can do it. Nope, we can't. Ah, fudge. I really want to show you the before and after, but alas. Maybe I can just like kind of show how nice it is to see her feet against all of that. And then zooming out and kind of going at it with more subtlety, that the moon doesn't have to be bright all the way around. It can just be bright at the thickest points and be a little bit dark towards the ends, just so it doesn't read as pure force of light, so it has a bit of weakness. The best way to make a light source situation appealing is to weaken the light source. Look at that. Just that alone has added so much. And I'm throwing a little bit more of her into the darkness. And then I'm going to just blur the edges of the moon. so that we have a bit more of a kind of like a surreal, heated lamp type attitude to the moon. I'm going to use my smudging brush on like 1% and just throw it across the surface of the moon and where it's hottest to create almost that like heat-like wave. Just there, and then I'm going to get my dodge tool and then just explore some like hot spots. That's what she said. I'm so sorry. So I'm just kind of just doing a little bit of that, and then darken layer and re-weaken it. Just trying to find some outlines. But again, this is all just sprinkles. It's not a you know, it's not a fix. You still need to be able to see her in the distance. The glow on the moon is very tacky because you've distributed it evenly everywhere. There should be, wherever the moon is thickest, that's where the largest glow will emerge. Just doing that alone, that's just really fun. Then you can just kind of figure your way around what's visible towards the bottom. I don't know why the bottom is bright. The bottom should be darker, it's further away. And that kind of like the middle section here should be a little bit bright. But the whole thing in the background should be brighter a little bit to reveal her value. And then weakening this value, remember you added stars in your other version, will kind of exaggerate the stars a little bit. Yeah, I hope this is some nice stuff. I worry because I don't want to give you things that'll make what you currently have better, because then you'll just settle for that. You're not actually going to explore a better option for this. So this is not an illustration, this is clip art. You need to give the light more of a weakness and character for it to read as an illustration. Okay. And that's about it for today, everyone. Does anyone have any questions? Congrats on your Porsche Studio copy, Emery. I can lighten the background value right now. I zoomed her in so I could see what I was drawing. I was going to make her smaller because my canvas size is not big enough. I would make her like around this small. Do you want to know why? Because then you can see the moon properly. So I would make her around this small. I would try to explore a more appealing kind of illustration. So I would do this little thing like, you know, I'd complete the... I would complete this. Oh, that's embarrassing. Okay. Oh, that's embarrassing. I would kind of like add some rooftops, you know, some like a chapel rooftop, and I would add like a little cat, kind of like observing what the hell is going on, and the little you know, stars. Not too many. Don't be cheesy with the stars. Just a couple will do the trick. And I would add just a little bit of a haze of the upcoming sun. You know, sun is about to rise, so just a little bit of a haze. Some more little faded, distant mountain tops maybe. And then some more houses and, you know, little towers and stuff like that. Whatever, anything. Make it like a busy town with little lights. You know, so you have weak light that isn't just some sort of roaring light of cheesiness. You have something that's a little bit more subtle so that other things can also take the front stage. And then maybe some other little light nearby her that might, you know, give her some side reflections or something like that. So I love what she's wearing. It kind of reminds me of the moon from Rise of the Guardians, you know, with Santa and the Easter Bunny. I don't know what the hell the Easter Bunny's doing there, but it kind of reminds me of that, kind of like the moon character. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful for you, and I will save this and call it a day. Thank you everyone for joining. If you guys want to submit your stuff for critique, just go to istebrak.com and click on the little Google Plus icon. And join the community, read the rules. If you are giving critique, please be respectful. If for some reason, you know, people are not really receiving your critiques, take a little bit retrospective look on yourself, and maybe you were being a little bit too harsh, but in saying that, I understand that you can say that back at me, but I am your leader. I am exempt from all kinds of critique. But yeah, if you're gonna give critique, try to be a little bit more humble with your opinion, and try to be more helpful than let's just say invasive. Try to be a little bit more helpful. I hope the person who I'm talking to knows who they are. And Portrait Studio is going to be on sale for another week, unless for some reason I'm not doing that. So if you do need the sale, please speak up. Speak up on Facebook. Let me know. I might end the sale tomorrow. I'm not sure if I feel comfortable leaving it for another week if no one is taking advantage of that. And that's about it. I think the challenge is upcoming, and if you're interested in supporting, you can support me on Patreon. As a watcher, I'm aiming for 1,000 patrons. Doesn't matter how long it takes, but that's my aim. And if you want to continue supporting the class and supporting my streams and supporting the channel and the community, you have a lot more tiers to choose from that come with different options and training and rewards and all of that. Video lessons. There's video lessons that I do monthly, and then there's the critique lessons. So video lessons come with my painting and what I do, and a time lapse of my personal stuff, and it comes with the brushes that I use for it. Or there is the full-on apprentice class, which comes with a Discord channel and a critique hour that lasts 2 hours, and sometimes it lasts a little bit less than 2 hours. And assignments and portfolio building and all of that. So thank you everyone for joining. I will see you guys Tuesday of next week. Again, I'm so sorry about Tuesday this week. I missed it because of some issue. But I will see you guys Tuesday next week. Bye-bye, everyone.